Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome to this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. Oh man, we got a really good show for you today. Today we're going to talk about ammunition, ammo manufacturing, what's popular, what's not. How do they do it? How do they make all those cartridges, all those rounds? We're going to be speaking with Mike Patrick, a production engineer from Michigan Ammo Supply over on the east side of the state here. We're going to ask him all those questions and get some really good information. Okay, what has been going on in my life? I'm just busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest, running all over faster than a fart in a hot skittle. Very, very busy. I just finished my latest novel, just last week, and it is titled Jack Pine Strong. Now, there's a story behind that title. As you know, for the longest time, I didn't know what to name that book. In fact, I actually finished the book before I named it, and I have never done that before. That's my 13th book. Usually, I have the title before I even start the book, and I just center everything around it. But I didn't know what I was going to name it on this one. Let me read it to you. And, you go right to the inside of the book here. And up at the beginning, it says, from the author. It says, when I first started writing Jack Pine Strong, it was going to be my very first romance novel. That fantasy lasted for about 60 pages. My wife, Sarah, who was reading it, had to break the bad news to me. Honey, she said, I'm sorry, but this is not a romance novel. When I asked her why, she said, you keep killing all the characters. Well, why is that not romantic? I don't understand. She was kind enough to explain to me that most women don't find murder, death, and mayhem to be very romantic. Oddly enough, that thought had never occurred to me. So, my romance novel suddenly morphed into a crime drama, but I'm okay with that. It freed me up to be myself and stop talking about tender feelings all the time. I hate when that happens. So, ladies, unless you have a tolerance for murder, death, and mayhem, you may not appreciate this novel as much as I do. But guys, you're gonna love it. Regardless of your affinity to violence, I hope you enjoy my story. The good characters are packed with virtue, courage, and morality. The bad characters are downright evil. And in the end, they get exactly what they deserve. And you certainly can't ask for more than that. So it is with great pleasure that I bring to you the first book in the Jack Ruger Adventure series. And for those of you who don't know Jack, better hang on tight because it's a real wild ride. That was the last thing that I wrote. I wrote that at the very end, like the morning that I published it. It's on Amazon right now. Jack Pine Strong, the Jack Ruger Adventure series, book 1. I don't know how many of these I'm going to write. At least 2. If people like it, I'll just keep writing them. It's set in the Upper Peninsula. I love the Upper Peninsula, folks. Here's the description. On Amazon, it says, if masculinity is toxic, then Jack Ruger is the cultural equivalent of a raging bull on steroids. I wrote that just to piss off the liberals. Born and raised in the cold and frozen northern paradise of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Chief of Police Jack Ruger is sworn to protect and defend the citizens of Jack Pine. So, when escaped killer Bobby Lee Harper descends on the town, threatening to kill him and all he holds dear, it's a formal declaration of war, and only one man will survive. I'll let you guess who that one man is. But it ain't the bad guy. Trust me on that. I never know how long a novel's going to be when I'm writing it. I just write until, the good guys win, the girl is saved, the girl is rescued, and all the bad guys are dead. Anyone who needs killing's got to die, or we don't end the novel. But hey, I did this one in about 185 pages. So I'm getting better. I'm getting better at my craft. I killed all the bad guys in 184 pages or less. Well, I hope you will check out that book. I think you'll like it. I really, really do. I enjoyed writing this book so much. It was just fun. I think it's really the first book that I've written where I actually looked forward to writing. I would write it the day before, force myself to quit, and then at night I'd sit there and I would think about it. Okay, what am I going to write tomorrow? And I'd actually look forward to getting up in the morning. And that usually doesn't happen. There were several occasions where I woke up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just didn't go to bed. I just said, okay, the heck with it. I'm going to get up. I'm going to write this book. And I did it, and in 2 months, I wrote 185 pages. I don't think I've ever done that before. But some books, they just flow, and this was one of those stories. It just came to me, and I think it's clever. It's unpredictable. There are some secrets you won't find out about till close to the end of the book. I know that because I tested it on my wife, and boy, I fooled her really, really well. And hey, she's an electrical engineer, so I know she's smart. Valedictorian of her class, and I fooled her. So I'm very proud of that. All right, so check that out, Jack Pine Strong on Amazon.com. Oh, other news. The Blind Man's Rage, the 4th book and final book in the God Virus series, General Rodney T. Branch. He is one badass old man. I tell you, that guy, I miss that character. I miss that character, and part of the problem with the Jack Ruger Adventure series, I'm thinking, how can I top Rodney T. Branch? I don't think I topped Rodney T. Branch. I may never do that, but I certainly did not disappoint anyone. This is the kind of novel that if Rodney T. Branch, the commanding general of the Shadow Militia, if he was a real person, this is the book he would read. And he typically doesn't read novels. So, hey, Rodney would love this book. It's endorsed by Uncle Rodney. So, get Jack Pine Strong on Amazon.com. But The Blind Man's Rage, that is on audiobook now. You can go to Amazon.com and you can pick it up, paperback, Kindle, or audiobook. So, enjoy that very, very much. Okay, all right, all that's happy, but now I have to transition into something that is not so happy. I have been following this story for, quite a while, since it broke. And I have not felt warm and fuzzy about this story at all. This is the Jayme Closs story from Wisconsin. And I was extra interested in this story. I mean, this is a 13-year-old who was abducted. Her parents were murdered in their home, and she was abducted and been missing for, 88 days. Well, I was especially interested. I mean, this happens, more often than it should. But this one was special because I have a daughter and grandchildren, small grandchildren. I have 6 grandkids over in that area. I taught concealed carry classes over in the Barron, Wisconsin area, probably about 15 miles from there, for about 4 years. And I taught several hundred people over there over the course of 4 years in Wisconsin how to carry concealed. It was interesting to me because I'm thinking, gosh, that could have been one of my grandkids. Okay, I'm going to read this article now. It is from the Washington Post, titled, "He Spotted Jayme Closs at a Bus Stop, then Launched a Deadly Plan to Kidnap Her," police say. Barron, Wisconsin. He shaved his head and his face, wiping down his father's shotgun in 6 12-gauge shells to avoid leaving a physical trace. He replaced his car's license plates with a set he had stolen, removing a glow-in-the-dark cord from the trunk that allowed people to open it from the inside. He thought this out. And he showed up at a home in rural Wisconsin in a black coat and a balaclava with one purpose: to kidnap a 13-year-old girl whose name he didn't even know. That's what freaks me out. Now, there's a lot about this that freaks me out. Prosecutors laid out in detail these steps they say Jake Patterson took as he planned the kidnapping of Jayme Closs last year. An act planned after Patterson saw the girl at a bus stop. Wow. Saw her one time and said, "I'm going to abduct this girl." The release was coupled with Patterson's first court hearing, in which he appeared by video in an orange jumpsuit from the county jail, shaking his head affirmatively and saying, "Yes, sir," to the judge's questions. He was visibly unmoved as charges against him were read. Judge James C. Babler set Patterson's bail at $5 million. Jayme's relatives sat in silence throughout and only quietly whispered to one another before and after the hearing. They left the courtroom swiftly at the end of the hearing. Patterson's brother and father walked out of the courtroom with their heads bowed. His father's hands were wrapped together, and he was dressed in a gray suit. He appeared tired. When one reporter asked Patterson's father simply, "Did you know?" he kept his head bowed and shook his head slowly from side to side to signal no. I don't know if he did know or not, and we may never know the answer to that question. Usually when someone is like this, though, you kind of know there's something off about this person. The case, which has chilled this small corner of Wisconsin for months, unraveled with breathtaking speed last week after Jayme escaped from Patterson's home. It had been nearly 3 months since the 21-year-old had stalked her, ambushed her family at their house, and hauled her away in duct tape bindings after fatally shooting her parents, officials said. Residents had joined law enforcement officials in a months-long search for the girl. But prosecutors have declined to answer some key questions about the case, both in the complaint and in a news conference after the court appearance on Monday afternoon. They have not spelled out Patterson's motivation for kidnapping Jayme, saying only that he knew that he was the girl he was going to take after seeing her at the bus stop. You know, I shudder to think what this guy did to this poor girl. I mean, 88 days. He killed her parents and then took her for 88 days. I find it hard to believe that he didn't do anything heinous to her. It wouldn't make any sense. I imagine all that will come out sometime in the next several months. Patterson is charged in Barron County, where the Closs family house is located. Jayme was held in Gordon, about 65 miles to the north, where prosecutors said that more charges may be forthcoming, though they declined to answer questions about whether she had been sexually assaulted or give any other details. They did outline Patterson's meticulous preparation and ruthless execution of the crimes, which spun out of 2 days of work he did at the Saputo cheese factory last year. Wow, my son-in-law, who lives in that area, works at a cheese factory. I wonder if he knew this guy. I should probably ask him. On one of the 2 mornings he worked at the factory, he had stopped behind a school bus and saw Jayme board. The defendant stated when he saw JLC, he knew that was the girl he was going to take. Either that day or the next, he bought the black mask at Walmart, the complaint said. He drove by the Closs home twice, but the number of cars in the driveway had scared him off. On one of these trips, he pilfered a license plate off another car to install on his red Ford Taurus. He took out the car's dome light so that it would not turn on when he entered or exited the car. And he came toting his father's Mossberg pump shotgun, a model chosen for both its lethality and commonality. Yeah, Mossberg pump shotgun is a very common gun. That way the gun would be harder to trace, prosecutors said. He shut off his headlights as he approached the Closs home, parking near the end of its driveway. He told police that he believed that James Closs, Jayme's 56-year-old father, was shining a light outside. He approached the front door, opening the storm door. This is Patterson who did this. The father looked through a glass portion of the front door, asking Patterson to show him his badge, apparently wondering whether the man at his front door with the shotgun was law enforcement. That was a fatal mistake. Patterson aimed the gun at Closs's head and pulled the trigger, he told police. He fired a round into the doorknob and broke into the house, stepping across Closs's body, police said. You know, I'm always telling my students, do not open the door. Do not open the door. And this man, he didn't do a whole lot wrong. He did not open the door. But he allowed his face to be in the glass long enough to get shot. So, you know, when I approach my door, I approach at an angle. I use the door frame because it's 2x4s in width. I use that as cover. That makes it very difficult for them to shoot you. Now this door, I'm guessing, was a large window. They're very decorative, they are beautiful, but about half the door is glass or stained glass or something like that. Folks, don't do that. If that's your door, replace your door. Solid steel security door with a peephole is the best way to go. If you gotta have glass, small glass, just enough for you to look through. And if you peep through the door and you see a man with a shotgun, get to the door frame. Don't stand in front of the door because that shotgun can go through the door. Okay, get out of the way. So this father, he did almost everything right, but it only takes one mistake to die, and that's what happened to the poor man. Inside the house, he went for a locked door, shouldering it a dozen or so times until it opened, the complaint said. That was the bathroom. The bathroom curtain was shut. He ripped it down and threw it to the floor, finding Jayme and her mother, mother's name was Denise, age 46, in the tub. Denise had her arms wrapped around Jayme. He bound Jayme with duct tape around her wrists and ankles and pulled her from the tub, shooting Denise as he started turning away, according to the complaint. There were only 2 shots fired in the whole altercation. I'm guessing both were headshots. You know, and this is the second mistake. I mean, poor Denise, the mother, she did what she thought was the right thing to do. She went to the bathroom and she hid, you know, thinking that her husband could protect her. But her husband didn't have a gun. He was unarmed. He hovered his face in front of the glass, and that was enough to get him shot. And the second mistake was the mother wasn't armed either. If she'd had a gun hiding in the bathtub, this jerk pulls the curtain down, boom, 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 you know, 5-6 shots to the chest. Is that a different story? It is a totally different story. You change one detail, and the outcome changes. Yeah, the dad was already dead, but the mom would still be alive, and the bad guy would be dead. That's the outcome that we want. It breaks my heart and even angers me when I run across women who have this irrational fear of guns and saying, no guns will be in my house. Well, that didn't work very well in this case. It doesn't work well in a lot of cases. You know, if she'd had a gun, even a tiny bit of training, 5 shots to the chest, we're talking 3 feet away. Totally different story here, folks. You know, and another thing people always ask me about, you know, a 13-year-old, when are they old enough to have access to firearms? And it's never the same answer. You don't know. You know, I don't know. I can't tell you how mature your kid is. I just can't. But there's a lot of cases where children have shot bad guys and saved the day. There's also a lot of cases where children have screwed up, shot themselves, and accidentally shot other people. You have to be the judge. And if you make a good decision and your kids are mature and wise, then it'll be okay. If they're not, and you make a bad decision, then innocent people die. So I can't tell you the answer to that question. You have to make that decision because only you know your kids. And if you don't know your kids, you're doing something wrong. Get to know your kids. All right. He dragged Jayme to the car and put her in the trunk, locked it, and drove away. He told deputies that he was more than 20 seconds from the house when squad cars passed him with their emergency lights and sirens on, having been alerted by a 911 call made by Denise. So the mom, grabbed the girl, said, "Come on into the bathtub," and then they called 911. Good idea. But you know what? The cops seldom get there in time to stop these kinds of murders. They can't. They can't get there. And if you know where Barron is, that's rural northwest Wisconsin. I'm amazed they got there as fast as they did. But I tell you, folks, man, the only way this could have changed is if the dad had used the door frame for cover, and if he'd had a gun, and if the mom had had a gun. That's the only way something like this was changed. Because you're talking about a determined attacker who wasn't stupid. This guy's clever. He planned it all out, and he was determined. He was ready to kill and do whatever was necessary to abduct this girl. The deputies arrived to find James and Denise both dead from gunshot wounds to their heads. Little is known about Jayme's time as a captive. The girl told police that Patterson would have her hide under his twin bed, stacking the area around it with tote bags, laundry bins, and weights, so that he would be able to hear or see if she moved. Police said she told him that, quote, Patterson made it clear that nobody was to know she was there or bad things would happen to her, unquote. Guests had apparently come and gone to his house while she was under the bed, the complaint said. And he made her stay under the bed when he left the house, sometimes as long as 12 hours with no food, water, or bathroom break, the complaint said. He struck her with a hard household object one time when she upset him, threatening that the punishment would be worse if it happened again. On 10 January, Patterson told her he was going to leave the house for 5 or 6 hours, the complaint said, making her crawl under the bed beforehand. But after he left, Jayme moved the bins and weights away, put on a pair of his shoes, and walked out toward the road until she found a woman walking her dog. Jean Nutter told police that Jayme told her name during the encounter. "I don't know where I am," the disheveled girl told her. "He killed my parents, and please help, I want to go home." The woman took her to the closest home nearby, where they called 911. Jayme told responding officers that Patterson had killed her parents. Officers saw a red vehicle in the area that was driven by a lone man. They pulled the car over near Patterson's home, asking the man to step out of the vehicle with his hands up. Some of the first words out of Patterson's mouth were, "I did it," the complaint said. Officials spoke glowingly of Jayme, who was recovering with family members. "Unbelievable," said Barron County District Attorney Brian Wright. "She's a 13-year-old, and if you read the criminal complaint, you can see the amount of control he was exerting over her. And at some point, she found it within herself, at 13 years old, to say, 'I'm going to get myself out of this situation.' It's incredible." Wow. Folks, this is a story that could happen to any of us. It could happen to you. It could happen to me, your wife, your husband, your kids. This was so random. Driving by, seeing her get on the bus, and then dedicating his life to killing her parents and ruining her life. I tell you over and over and over again, these people don't think like you and I. They're broken inside. They're crazy. They're mean. They're evil. We're going to talk about this more in segment 4. I've got my blood boiling here, and I need to calm down a little bit. So I think I'll have a cheese sandwich, take a little break. You take a break too. Take 2 minutes. While we're away, go ahead and check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical, and see what Firearms Legal can do to protect you in the event you ever have to use a firearm to protect yourself and the ones you love. Also check out EliteFirearms.us to see what Larry Jackson can do to help you and your family buy the right gun the first time to protect yourself and the ones that you love. EliteFirearms.us. All right, when we come back, we are going to have Mike Patrick from Michigan Ammo Supply. He's going to tell us all about how to remanufacture ammunition, the reloading industry, how it works, the history of their company. It's really good stuff, and Mike is a good guy. So when we come back, Mike Patrick, production engineer from Michigan Ammo Supply. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is Cedar Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Today we are speaking with Mike Patrick. He is a production engineer at Michigan Ammo. Mike, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you very much for having me, Skip. How can I help you?
Well, hey, Mike, I want to learn more about Michigan Ammo. I want to learn more about ammunition manufacturing, all kinds of stuff like that. First, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Who is Mike Patrick?
Well, sir, I've been with Michigan Ammo Company for, most of my life. It was a family-run business. My parents started the company. So I've been with Michigan Ammo most of my life. I'm a 65-year-old married man with 3 children and 8 grandchildren, and avid shooter. Enjoy the shooting sports and firearms. I've been around them all my life, and I don't know what else to say.
That's okay, Mike. Okay, you're 65. I'm 61. You know, one of the things that I've noticed, you told me that you shoot competitively, for fun. Have you noticed changes in the way that you shoot as you get older? Because I know I have.
Yes, sir. Depending on what discipline you shoot, bullseye, PPC, or IPSC, IPA, it does require some movement. And even if you're a stationary shooter, you do require movement. So as you get older, your joints don't want to work quite as well. And, of course, the eyesight tends to fail. But you still have the basics. As long as you can remember the basics, way to grip firearm and sight alignment and trigger squeeze and all, you can do pretty good as you get older. I don't shoot the scores that I used to, but I can usually keep them in a scoring ring. I usually don't throw them out. So I suppose if I'm not doing that, I'll be okay.
All right. Good. I've witnessed similar things in my students and in myself as well. The eyesight isn't what it used to be. Out to longer ranges, things get a little bit blurry. I definitely don't move the way I did in college. So, I can relate to all of those things. Now,
yes, sir.
Now, Mike, Michigan Ammo Supply, what exactly do you folks do over there?
Well, we manufacture ammunition. That's the main part of our business, and which is remanufacturing, reloading industry. We've been doing that through our entire history of the company, which was started back in the 60s. And we do also make factory new ammunition, but primarily it is for training ammunition for law enforcement, colleges with police academies. We don't necessarily make what you would consider duty ammo for law enforcement, self-defense type ammo. So we focus on, like I say, the training ammunition, plinking ammunition, good, fun ammunition. And you still have to make that with good quality, obviously, accurate, good quality. But as far as the duty and critical defense ammunition, we have stayed away from that part of the industry.
Yeah. Okay, so practice ammo. That interests someone like me. I mean, might go through 500 rounds a month in the winter and more in the summertime when I can actually get out there on the range in a longer amount of time. What is the difference between reloading at home and reloading at your plant?
Well, reloading at home, Skip, a lot of people say they may have a Dillon press that's most popular now, some of the old Star presses. At any rate, mostly they're going to be hand presses. They do have the newer presses, rotary type presses with indexers, so each time you pull the handle, the shell indexes around, and you're pumping out around the ammunition. Commercial reloading is basically the same, only on a larger scale with larger presses. Our presses turn out, and they're electric, obviously. They're larger presses. They're about I think the footprint on them is about 9 square feet. And they'll put out, we like to run them at about 3,200 to 3,500 rounds an hour. That seems to be a sweet spot on these particular presses. Some do faster. But they're inline presses, and they do all the things that, as far as stations go, that, say, your rotary press at home would do, your hand press. Only we do it much more faster.
So how many of these presses do you have?
10.
10, okay. So, boy, what is that, like 38,000 rounds an hour or something you can put out?
When they're all running at the same time, yes, sir. Yeah, it's a lot of ammo, yes, sir.
I was on the range. We're speaking with Mike Patrick, production engineer at Michigan Ammo Supply. Mike, I was on the range a couple years back, and people will ask me, they'll say, do you mind if I bring, reloads to class? And I've never had any problems with, remanufactured ammo like you guys put out. In fact, I bought quite a bit of ammo from you guys, through our friend Larry Jackson. And never had any problem with Michigan Ammo at all. But, I had this one guy ask me, he said, you mind if I bring reloads? And I said, well, I'd really rather that you didn't. And we were on the range. And, boy, I think it was like on his second shot, I was standing right next to him, right off his right shoulder, about 2 feet away. And I heard the most hellacious explosion, and his brand new Glock Model 22, it didn't fly apart, but it kind of expanded right around the chamber. And, his brand new Glock was done. It was finished. Fortunately, it didn't fly apart and didn't hurt anybody. But, boy, it sure did scare this guy. Why do things like that happen to guns?
Well, I would say even in the commercial loading industry, whether you're a major manufacturer, say as some of the big boys, Winchester, Remington, Federal, all those, or you're doing it in your basement, if you're not paying attention to the loading process, your powder checks, make sure you don't, what I would call in a hand press, double clutch it, go up and down, put 2 charges in. That's possible to do. Even on the automatic loading machines, say that we have powder checks. All of them do. And so after the powder is delivered to the cartridge casing, the very next station is a automatic powder check, and it will measure for either a high or low charge. Now, the engineer that sets up the machine, depending on what that cartridge calls for as far as powder weight, 3 grains, 5 grains, whatever it may be, you will set a high and a low test casing. So you will make your own parameters. How far will you allow the round, or the powder charge to be over, let's say, 5 grains of powder, for an example. 2 to 3/10 is kind of industry standard. So if you want to set your powder probes for, say, 5.3 or 5.5 for a high, or perhaps 4.7 on a low. So you set your parameters for what you're allowed to go through without the machine automatically shutting off. And anything different than that, the machine will shut off, and the operator, checks that. Oh, okay, bad one. So he gets rid of that and clears the track and continues. Because a powder slide or a drop, whatever you may have, turret, whatever it may be, could pick up a higher or lower charge. So, and then, so you're going to get a little bit of variation, and you don't want too much variation in your powder. But naturally, if you double charge one, and that's what it sounded like perhaps happened, you create a great deal of pressure, and the pressure has to go somewhere. And depending on the round of ammunition, it's not going to go down the barrel. It's going to come out the cartridge casing and the extraction port.
Yeah. Well, I know, boy, if you're reloading in your basement or whatever while you're watching television,
oh no,
you can get distracted. You pretty much have to focus on what you're doing and treat it like, a safety issue, because, it really, really is. Now, do you weigh the ammo, the finished cartridge? Is that how you do your quality checks, or how did you do
it? No, weighing them would be, it can be done. Let me put it that way, Skip. But the amount of ammunition that we produce, we do not weigh the individual rounds. One of the reasons being also, if we're using many different types of cartridge casings, say a Winchester and a Federal and a Remington, perhaps a Spear, all of the same caliber, but they're different manufacturer of the brass, it may weigh just a little bit different. So it's difficult, even though you're putting the same weight bullet in, the same charge, same primer and all, it may weigh just a little bit different. So that would throw you off. Quality control is done by the operator on the machine while he's running the product. We have micrometers and chambering gauges and all that to check this stuff as it comes off the end of the machine. Now, obviously, we're not checking every one of them, but the idea is, get your hand on the side and grab some rounds as they come off, throw them in the chamber, get the micrometers out, make sure all the settings are staying the same and they're within your parameters. And then they go into the barrel or the box or whatever they may go to. But actual quality control is done by our inspectors and our packagers in the back of the plant, as far as looking the ammunition over, make sure everything's proper, and then it's put, it's packaged. But at that time, there's no way for them to actually check anything that's internal in the cartridge casing.
Yeah. Now, remanufactured ammo, how does that differ from brand new ammo?
Really, Skip, only the cartridge casing. If you're loading to proper parameters, let's use a 9mm, for example. 9mm, 115 grain. Average speed on that, I'll say 1,100 feet per second. So you tweak your loads and your powder and all to run your ammunition at 1,100 feet per second, give or take, say, 25 feet per second, whether high or low, which is a pretty decent parameter. The only difference is the cartridge casings. We're still running at about 1,100 feet per second, but we're using, used cases. Now, the used cases have been processed to make sure that there are no cracks and dents, defective casings. We process those on machinery that has been built for processing cartridge casings to take those out automatically. So by the time those used casings get to the loading machine, they're free of cracks and dents and, splits or discolorations. So it's really only the cartridge casing that's different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where do you get that much empty brass?
Oh, well, Many of the customers we have, we do an exchange brass with them. Let's say a department buys 10,000 rounds of ammunition. They may have 10 or 11 or 12,000 rounds of empty cartridge casings that they fired already. We exchange that with them. We bring those cartridge casings back into the shop where we process them for renewal. There's many people, or I should say companies in our industry that actually sell used brass. I don't want to get into their names or anything like that, but they're around here in Michigan also. There's a few companies here in Michigan that are fine companies that sell used brass. So we get the casings that way, and it is incumbent upon us, and actually myself, to inspect these casings, and as they come in and either pass a load of cartridge casings, like, okay, those look all right. I don't think they're too old. We'll do some checks on them that we have in-house. But if they're beginning to, go beyond their life expectancy, we scrap them out. We take them over to the scrapyard.
All right. Well, we are about out of time for this segment, Mike, but we've got a 2-minute break here. While people are away, how can they check out Michigan Ammo? You have a website or something like that?
We do. MichiganAmmoLLC.com.
Okay, MichiganAmmoLLC.com. I think I got there just by going to MichiganAmmo.com, and it took me right there.
You can do that, too. I think the official one is LLC, but I think you can get to it either way. Just typing in that name, you'll get to it.
All right. Okay, MichiganAmmoLLC.com. While we're on our 2-minute break, go ahead and also check out our sponsors, firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical, and also EliteFirearms.us. Okay, when we come back, we're going to be speaking more with Mike Patrick, production engineer from Michigan Ammo Supply. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, folks. I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We are speaking again with Mike Patrick, production engineer at Michigan Ammo Supply. Mike, we were talking about your processes, your quality control, all of that. It sounds great. I think it's probably safe to say that you don't blow up a whole lot of guns using your ammo.
No, sir. No, sir, we do not.
All right, good.
Well, no, we do not. Has it ever happened? And this is something that everybody, I think, in our industry that's been a loader and has, many years in this, even the car companies are going to put out a stinker once in a while. So can I say that it has never happened? I cannot honestly say that, no. Does it happen very often? No. Does it hardly ever happen? Hardly ever happens. Should it happen? No. But I can't honestly say that it has never happened, because it has happened to everybody in our industry, even the big fellas. Have uncorked a weapon. So we learn from that, we investigate it, we correct the problem, we get right on it, and we do whatever it needs to remedy that, whether it's in-house or out in the field. So,
well, that sounds good. Now, Mike, who was it that founded Michigan Ammo? Was that your father or your grandfather? Who was it?
No, actually it was my father, back in the early 60s, founded it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, you would have. I think I read on your website that you started out selling presses, and you'd go on family vacations all over the country, and they were kind of like working vacations. Your father would take the whole family. You go and you try to sell reloading presses to people.
Well, that's true. I could tell you many stories of that time. I could fill up a lot more time than we have, but yeah, Dad started out. There was a company in St. Clair Shores, Magnomatic Tool and Engineering, that was building some of the very early automatic presses, and he helped in some of the design in that and the R&D in that, and he went out on the road trying to sell them to police departments. Back then, it was primarily straight-walled cases, 38 caliber, 357, 41 Magnum, and all. And more often than not, people liked the idea of saving money, using the remanufactured ammunition, but they didn't want to do it in-house. But if somebody would do that, they'd buy that ammo from them. So Dad was a pretty sharp old bird. He got done with that, and he decided he didn't want to sell the machines. He'd rather sell the ammo. So that's how we started.
Wow. Sounds like, longevity. It's hard to argue with longevity in the business world. Well, okay. Now, tell me, Mike, about your products, different calibers. What do you guys sell?
Primarily everything from 380 on up to 45 ACP. All the cartridges in between. We've just begun starting to do AR-15 rounds, 5.56, and 223 rounds. We've just added that fairly recently to our inventory. But primarily it's all handgun ammunition, 38 caliber, 357, 9 millimeter, 357 SIG, 40 cal. But just those basic calibers, but in many different bullet weights also. And then also there's match ammunition. That's done on special machines that we have set up that we just leave those tools to run, say, match caliber 38 special ammunition or match caliber 9 millimeter. They have special powder we use. We actually have a special dies we may cut to run that match ammunition, and actually we may run that a little slower also, so that we make sure that bullet gets seated, especially in the 9 millimeter. That bullet gets seated absolutely, straight down into that cartridge casing. So when you're shooting it out there at 50 yards, you don't get any flyers.
Well, I can't even see 50 yards, but that's just me. Mike, what caliber sells well? What are you selling most of these days?
Oh, no, 9 millimeter, no question about it. 9 millimeter is the most popular caliber now. For civilians also. That seems to be a very good self-defense round. It's an easy semi-automatic pistol to control. And they come in very different sizes, compact, medium, and large frame firearms. So there's no question that 9 millimeter is the most popular caliber, not only in the civilian and competitive market, but also it's really becoming much more popular with law enforcement these days. They're switching from not all of them, but they're moving a little bit away from the 40 caliber. With the development of ballistics and the 9 millimeter cartridge casings, they're going back to the 9 millimeter, and it's I don't want to say it's doing a good job, but
Now, recently, a couple of years ago, I moved from 40 caliber down to 9mm, primarily because, it's easier for me to control. I mean, I'm getting a little long in the tooth and losing body mass up top and things like that. And I just found that I was more accurate with a higher rate of fire with the 9mm. What do you carry, Mike?
9mm. Depends on where I may be going, quite frankly, Skip. Sometimes I'll put that old J-frame revolver on, or usually every day when I'm down at the factory and on my way in, it's a 9mm. I'm usually carrying a Smith & Wesson 9, and that serves real well. You get a larger magazine capacity. Obviously, that J-frame's only 5 shots. Where you've got maybe, 9, 10 shots in that little 9mm. So, I like the 9mm. I actually use that also for competitions, that and a 38 caliber, both for competition. So. Yeah.
Your 9mm competition gun, what is that like?
It's actually, again, a Smith & Wesson. It's called a Smith & Wesson PPC 9. It's built on, I think it's a 5209 frame. It's a 5. I have both a 5 and a 6-inch gun in that same type, and it shoots very, very well. I really enjoy it. It came out of the Smith & Wesson Performance Center. Very accurate firearm. A lot of nice little features in it that aren't even offered on the normal gun you may get from Smith & Wesson. It was strictly built for competition, so it shoots very well when I'm doing my job right.
So you can't just point it in the general direction and then let fly.
No, a little more to it than that, Skip. I think you know that.
Yeah, I certainly do. I'm waiting for them to come out with smart bullet technology. Any breakthroughs on smart bullet technology yet?
Lord, I hope not. That'll put us out of business.
Yes, it would. Well, now you mentioned police agencies. Some of them are switching from 9mm, from 40 caliber to 9mm, and I had heard that. What reasons are they giving for that switch?
The 40 caliber, as you just, mentioned, wants to jump around on you. It's a very nice gun. I mean, it's a good caliber, does what it's supposed to do, but it's a more powerful caliber. And the second and third shot, may not be, as on target as you want them to be. I used to shoot with, some teams, some law enforcement teams, and, one of the comments was your first 3 shots are your money balls. So, not just your first shot. You need to follow up with that second and third shot, if necessary, but you need to be on target also. And the 9mm doesn't recoil as much. You get the second and third shot, on target easier. And quite frankly, for some of the smaller officers, they handle that gun better than that 40 caliber. Not just officers, but individuals, as, civilians too. You're going to be on that second, third shot better. So
yeah, that makes sense. And if you wanted to carry a compact, maybe something like an M&P Shield or something, you can still, get a decent magazine count. You're not stuck with 5 or 6 rounds. You can go up to like 8+1 or something like that.
You're right. Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about where is the industry going? What trends do you see? Is there anything new coming on the horizon? Anything new at Michigan Ammo?
Well, gosh, Skip, the industry itself is actually doing well. As you know, you're a trainer. You see many more females in the ranges now. And that's very encouraging that the females are getting involved in shooting. They're enjoying competitive shooting. Many of the newer ranges these days that are opening up are actually, they have ladies' night and, special events for females and other organizations. Our church has a shooting night at the range we go to. That is very encouraging in the industry. The Scholastic Steel Challenge is getting more prevalent, So we're getting more individuals in schools and colleges involved in the shooting sports. So the shooting sports for many years, I suppose, was so sort of that thing you really didn't talk about, or, that's bad. It's in some old range where some old boys are just smoking cigars and shooting. Well, it's not like that. It's fun. It's family orientated. Our whole family shoots. We all shoot competitively. My grandchildren shoot. They're old enough now that they hunt with their father, and so it's more family orientated. So I'm encouraged in that in the industry.
Yeah.
So I mean there are many innovations in projectiles and ammunition in itself too, but the overall I feel the overall persona of the industry is much better than it was many years ago.
Yeah. Well, you talk about more women coming to the shooting sports, and personally, I really like that. They bring a whole new feel and dynamic to the range. It's not all, hellfire, brimstone, testosterone, fog. I mean, you've got different attitudes and different ways of shooting. I'm just so impressed with the way women shoot. They just seem to have such a light trigger press. That once they know what you want them to do, man, they are just right on. So, but along that vein, Mike, I see a lot of them going to 380s. Are you seeing a rise in 380 production?
We are, yes. There's no question about that. In fact, my wife carries a 380. If you look at the ballistics of a 380, this is from a production guy, look at the ballistics of a 380, it's very comparable to, say, the old 38 specials, the 148 grain or 158 grain bullets as far as velocities and foot-pounds of energy delivered. So you can have a smaller firearm, well, that's pretty easily controllable, and still have the capacity or I should say the incapacitating shots that the old 38s would have. And now you've got that, maybe a 9-shot, 10-shot 380. And it's a nice small gun. It's very comfortable for the females. Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been looking at these, the M&P 380 EZ, and I was able to, shoot one a few months back. I was just amazed at how easy it is to rack that slide back, and I've been and it shot fairly well. So I've been steering a lot of my female students to the 380 EZ, and I'm trying to talk my wife into getting one of those. I mean, she's got a 5-shot Smith & Wesson J-frame that she just loves.
Oh, yeah.
It's just easy to carry and all that stuff for her. But I just feel better if she had more rounds. But I'm still working on that. What do you think about
That's a nice gun.
Yeah, it is. What do you think about the M&P 380 EZ?
Very nice weapon. They really designed it. The engineers put their brains to work there. When they came out with the M&P, when I first put the M&P in my hand, I really liked the ergonomics of that firearm. The slide was low to the frame. Very nice gun. And then as they developed, and took developments from that, the 380 EZ came up. And many of the 380s are a little tough there because they're a small gun, a little tough to bring that slide back the first time and charge the weapon. But Smith & Wesson got it right on that EZ. It's a very nice firearm, easy to shoot. I do not have one. My wife actually, that's probably on the agenda for her because I believe she's going to be switching her 380s around. But no, very, very nice gun. They got it right this time, no question about it.
Yeah, I think that is going to be a big seller, and you're going to continue to have to manufacture more and more 380 ammo.
Yes, sir, yeah.
Well, Mike, we are about out of time here in this segment. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about is you do a lot of competition shooting. What kind of shooting do you do? And go ahead and plug some of your events that you have coming up.
Well, we primarily shoot PPC, which is Police Pistol Combat. My wife and I were both police officers for about 18 years, reserve officers. So it was only open to law enforcement for many years, but now the civilians can shoot it, which they have been for a long time here in the southeast Michigan. It's based on police training, the old style, somewhat static police training. So we shoot a great deal of PPC. And there are matches in southeast Michigan here. In fact, we're going to start our big, in Taylor, Michigan, our Taylor Pistol Club match will actually start tomorrow, the official day. That's the PPC course is actually a 60-round course fired on 2 targets. And then we will actually shoot what is called the Old Michigan Police Distinguished course, which is a 42-round course on 2 targets. And that's a little bit different in the distances and the positions and things. So that's what we particularly shoot. We have shot IDPA. Naturally, I've shot Bullseye because our club has a Bullseye division also. Bullseye, IDPA, and of course IPSC. I call those the running and gunning games because you move faster. You've shot IDPA, I believe, and perhaps IPSC also. So that move, you got to move a little more in those games. So,
well, you should have a workout program anyways, right? And if you can shoot
there you go.
while you're exercising, you get the best of both worlds. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, you just happen to be mashing on the trigger. So,
well, you know what, Mike, we talked about this off air, and I certainly want to follow up, coming over there and shooting with you sometime. Just, because it's just fun. You can talk to somebody on the phone or you can email back and forth, but there's just nothing like going out on the range and shooting with someone. It's like, for me, I don't really know someone personally until either I've been to their house and met their family or I've been with them on the range because you just get to know somebody, and it's like there's a virtual friend, but, then they're the people that you shoot with. And there's something nice about shooting with people on the range because, shooting is potentially dangerous, and there's a mutual trust that goes back and forth with the guys that you shoot with. And it's just bonding, incredibly bonding. So we definitely got to do that sometime, Mike.
I would enjoy that, Skip. I look forward to seeing you. In fact, I believe I'm going to see you here in February at the conference over there.
Oh, great!
Great. Yep, we're signed up to go to the church conference.
Awesome.
And in fact, I'm taking your class over there. My wife and I both are going to be in your class, so we will definitely meet at that conference. I'm looking forward to it, and if we can, perhaps that weekend, maybe we can find a range to get out and enjoy ourselves a little bit.
Hey, I know a range or two over here, so we will definitely do that. I look forward to meeting you, Mike. One more time, tell us how to get a hold of Michigan Ammo.
Well, MichiganAmmo.com or the telephone number over here, which is area code 313-383-4430. We're in there 5 days a week, normal hours, and we'd love to hear from somebody. Absolutely.
All right, and you sell also to civilians as well, not just law enforcement agencies?
Not too many civilians, actually, Skip, primarily to dealers and clubs. Individual sales are not that much. We don't have a retail store. Actually, it's just a factory, the offices, and then, of course, the production floors out back. So, unfortunately, we don't do a lot of retail work because we have dealers out there.
Got it. Well, you know what? I will send all of my listeners to EliteFirearms.us with Larry Jackson. That way everybody...
He's a good man.
All right. Okay, Mike, thank you very much for being on the Home Defense Show.
Thank you, Skip. God bless. Take care.
All right. Okay, folks, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. We have another 2-minute break. Go ahead and check out MichiganAmmoLLC.com. Also, check out EliteFirearms.us. Put in your ammo order. And then go to firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and see how they can help you if you ever have to use your firearm for self-defense. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. When we come up in segment 4, we'll give you the wrap-up. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
to my dad's home defense radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
Skip, it's Armed America time. Take us there, man.
All of us here at Frontlines of Freedom want our listeners to get trained and get armed in that order. We fully support the right to keep and bear arms for all law-abiding families, and we encourage you to find out about the laws governing use of deadly force in your state and follow them to the letter. And of course, don't forget to follow the rules of safety and common sense whenever you're carrying a firearm to protect the ones you love. What's the story this week, Colonel?
Well, smash and grab robberies are a trend in thievery of late, but one went bad when the crew picked a Los Angeles jewelry store where the owner had a gun. The men busted in armed with pepper spray and hammers and did a slew of damage in the store, including spraying the owner. Fortunately, the alleged robbers couldn't get out the door without being buzzed out, which gave the owner time to recover and grab her gun. Firing a shot, sending the intruders scurrying off through broken panels of glass, leaving behind the loot they tried to take.
Thanks, Colonel. By definition, smash and grab robberies are designed to happen very quickly. These surprise attacks catch the victims off guard, thereby enhancing the criminal's chance for success. By nature, when humans are surprised, they tend to freeze in place. That's fine if you only freeze for a second or two, but anything beyond that will turn into helpless compliance and label you as a victim. Now, sometimes it's smart to comply. For example, when you are facing overwhelming force, but even then, you should always be looking for a chance to successfully counterattack. And that's exactly what this woman did. She showed courage and resolve by taking on multiple attackers, and we commend her for her bravery. But I'd like to point out one thing that all of us who carry concealed pistols should be doing on a regular basis, and that is the question of immediate accessibility. Many store owners keep their gun in a drawer or in a safe or under the counter where it can be retrieved when it's needed. However, it takes time and opportunity to make that retrieval before you can actually use the gun to protect yourself, as this woman quickly found out. She did a great job of fighting off the effects of pepper spray. And as military vets know, that's not an easy thing to do. I still remember trying to sing the Marine Corps hymn after taking off my gas mask during boot camp. It's an experience that still brings tears to my eyes 40 years later. In this scenario, the store owner's efforts would have gone smoother if she'd been practicing a method of on-body carry. That means carrying your pistol on your person where it is safe, concealable, and easy to access. It takes the average practiced concealed carrier about 1.5 seconds to draw from the holster, aim, and get the first shot on target. That is an incredible advantage over having to retrieve your gun from a staged location. If the gun is not on your person, then you have no guarantee that you can get to it in time when you need it. After all, Colonel, what's the first rule to a gunfight?
Bring a gun?
Colonel, that's right. Now I know why they made you an officer.
Well, I know a couple cases where somebody brought a knife to a gunfight and that didn't do well.
And these guys brought hammers. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Great interview with Mike Patrick from Michigan Ammo Supply. You know, I've always wondered how they do that, and now I know. My life is complete. Well, all joking aside, it was good talking to Mike. Nice guy. Lots of good information there, and I have a lot of confidence in Michigan Ammo. That's why I buy ammo from Larry Jackson. He gets his ammo from Michigan Ammo Supply. I've never had any problem with it at all, so I can highly recommend it. All right, this is the wrap-up, segment 4. In segment 1, we were talking about Jayme Closs, how her parents were murdered. She was abducted and held for 88 days by an evil man. You know, stories like that, they get my already hypersensitive protective instincts into overdrive. They put them on steroids. And personally, I have to be careful that I don't overreact. You know, I really do, because it's like it would be easy to start looking for the boogeyman, you know, around every corner and worrying about it and being afraid about it. And I once had a student come up to me, you know, it was in the middle of class. You know, I was talking about situational awareness, and he raised his hand and he said, you know, I understand what you're saying about, you know, looking around and being aware and observant and looking for danger. But he said, I'm not going to do that. And I said, okay, why? He says, because you're paranoid. And if I did all of those things, it would take the joy out of my life. And I said, you don't understand what I'm talking about. I said, when I do all of these things, when I scan for danger, when I walk a certain way, when I make certain preparations, I'm not feeling any emotions. It's not an emotional response. It's a habit that I do. I've trained myself to be that way and to act that way. And I don't feel anything at all. There's no fear involved whatsoever. It's totally non-emotional. But I can see where someone could go overboard and just start to worry and be consumed by fear when they wrap themselves up in these articles. Because there's mass shooters every week. There's terrible news every single day, every hour of every day. There is evil in the world. Someday evil will visit your door. The question is, are you ready for it? Will you be smart enough? Will you have the software, the self-defense software, to avoid, escape, or defend? That's the bottom line. No, you don't have to be paranoid. But you do have to be aware. You do have to be smart. You have to know what to do in any given situation. And for God's sake, you have to have a firearm, a good firearm, and the training to know what to do when that crap hits the fan. You know, I'm very protective of my family. When my wife goes out to walk the dog, you know, in our own yard, 20 feet from the house, I'm there. I'm either outside or I'm inside the door watching. Anybody stops, comes up, I'm out there. I am all over that man like a chicken on a June bug. And they know that we are not soft targets. Our house is set up so that everyone knows we are not soft targets. I recommend that you do the same. Don't take things for granted. Don't just say, oh, yeah, well, you know, I live in a low-crime neighborhood. Nothing like that's ever happened in my neighborhood. Well, you know what? It hadn't happened in that neighborhood either. It never happens until it happens. But when it does happen, people are dead. Lives are ruined. Families are devastated. Communities are thrown into terror. So get ready. Don't be paranoid. Don't be afraid. But be prepared. All right. Well, I went over again this week. I'm not going to apologize. I don't do that because I gave you some really good stuff this week. And I hope that it will help prepare you to protect your family and the ones that you love. Again, MichiganAmmo.com. Check them out. EliteFirearms.us. Buy that Michigan ammo from Larry Jackson along with the right gun. Go to firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical. Protect yourself against the criminal justice system. And while you're on the internet, go to Amazon.com. Pick up the Audible version of The Blind Man's Rage and then the brand new book, the Jack Ruger Adventure Series, Jack Pine Strong. And we'll be talking more about that later. I can't tell you, this book is just awesome. You've got to read this story. You will love it. All right, folks, next week, I'm not sure what we're going to have next week. The week after next, we're going to have Gabe Suarez from Suarez International. He's going to be talking to us about home defense weapons. AR-15s versus shotguns versus pistols. What's good? What's bad? What's ugly? What's the best? How do you use them? Gabe Suarez, he knows and he will tell us. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!